Hi, I'm Ori the Fanfic Guy, and this is Chapter 1 of Pure Corruption, a story written by KennyMan666 that you can find on fanfiction.com or on corruption.nextera.net. Chapter 1. Avicenne, City on the Waves. Maurice Lake was looking out over Avicenne from her vantage point on top of the tallest building in the city. She had done this many times before and had no particular reason to do it. She had lived in the city all her life, and as she had come to Avicenne as a baby while it was still a construction site where only a few merchants and carpenters lived, had grown up together with it. She knew where every building in the city was, and she noticed immediately if a new one had been built or if an old one had been torn down. Avicenne was not a real island. It consisted entirely of a network of white bridge-like structures a few feet above the waves, on top of which a city had grown. Originally a small trading post, it had quickly become a busy trade center. As there were no inlets or shallow waters to navigate, it made an ideal stop for larger ships. Thus it had caught the attention of the Marines, who saw the potential of such a location, and had on several occasions attempted to acquire the city for themselves. But as the city itself had no record of serious crimes and had never tried to oppose the royal government, the Marines had no reason to use force. But with the repeated attempts of the Marines to gain control of their city, the public opinion of them among the citizens soon became unfavorable. Since a lot of the city thrived on the business resulting from a large amount of people coming through, no matter their affiliation, many were of the opinion that putting it under Marine control would deter many potential visitors. As pirates rarely caused any trouble, the city enjoyed its reputation as a neutral zone, even if any truce, especially with the increasingly unstable state of the world, was an uneasy one. She was a young woman, having turned 21, but had always looked a few years younger than her actual age. Tanned skin, cerulean eyes, light golden blonde hair fading to a light cyan near the lower fringes. Dressed in an airy blue top and a knee-length flowing skirt, she always wore a smile on her face. On her feet, she wore nothing. Looking out over the northern docks, Marie spotted a small ship clumsily making its way towards Avicenne. While ships approaching was nothing special, something about this particular one caught her eye, and she observed it for a few moments before setting off again. She ran a few steps forward and took a leap towards the roof of the next building, safely landing and continuing her dash. Some people looked up towards her, and she waved to them with a smile. Maurice was well liked in Avicenne. While no one knew much about her, nearly everyone knew of her, as she was the adopted daughter of the mayor of the city. She was like a permanent fixture of the city, a cerulean streak among the buildings of white. Where she went, there could often be found droplets of water trailing her. This was, however, rarely noticed by anyone, and no one would be able to guess the true source of them. She continued jumping onto lower and lower roofs, soon reaching street level. She had made her way to one of the markets and walked up to a nearby fruit stand. "Good day to you, Maurice. May I interest you in some fruit?" the merchant asked. "Certainly, Mr. Dean," Maurice replied cheerfully. "I'll have some apples." "Of course." As the merchant wrapped a few apples in a piece of cloth, Maurice picked out a handful of coins from a pouch hanging from her skirt. She handed over the coins and received the package, opening it to start munching on one of the fruits before walking away. "Your apples are juicy today, Mr. Dean," she mentioned before disappearing among the various stands in the marketplace. At the same time, at the northern docks of Avicenne, the ship with the name Cassandra had finally made it to port. Her single crew member stepped onto solid ground for the first time in many days, and as he tied a rope to one of the many mooring posts, was approached by a dock worker. "Welcome to Avicenne, sir," the worker said. "If you wish to keep your ship here, the docking fee is 2,500 belly, in advance." "Oh, sure," the man said as he reached into his pocket, producing 3 bills worth 1,000 belly each, and handed them to the worker. As he got his change back, a deep growling was heard from his stomach. "Hungry after the trip?" "I haven't eaten for 2 days. Can you tell me where the closest restaurant is?" "Well, there is a cafe with good food just around the corner here," the dock worker said and waved his hands towards a nearby building. "Do you need a place to stay too?" "I was thinking I'd sleep on the boat." "Truth be told, sir, you don't want to do that. I understand if you might want to guard it, but we have workers around the clock. There is so much going on everywhere all the time here, you would be lucky to get any significant sleep. It's not the cheapest, but if you just follow the road past the cafe to the market, then turn right, you'll find the Veranda Hotel. Nice rooms, busy bar, some good entertainment too." "I'll consider it, thanks. I'll go eat and then get my things off the boat." "By the way, sir, what name should we note for you in the boat?" the dock worker asked, having opened up a small registry book. "Oh, the boat's Cassandra. As for me, the name's James Conrad. Conrad. All right then, Mr. Conrad. We will take care of your boat for as long as you wish. I hope you enjoy your stay in Avicii. James shook the worker's hand. I'm sure I will. As James started walking towards the cafe he had been informed about, he looked at the buildings around him. Everything was in a shade of white, and a lot of it seemed to glint in the sunlight. No wonder they called this the pristine city. He rounded the corner, spotting a sign with the name Dockside Cafe on it, figuring it had to be the place he had been told about. He took a seat at one of the tables on the patio. It wasn't long before a waitress in a blue dress walked up to his table, having spotted the new customer. "Welcome, sir. Can I take your order?" she asked. James took a quick glance at the menu. He didn't really care what he'd get, he just needed food. Sure, he said. Let's see. I'll have a 2-fish sandwich, large garlic pasta, chips with meat sauce, and a large dark ale. Thank you very much. The waitress wrote down his order. That's a lot of food. You sure you want all that? Well, I haven't really eaten anything in 2 days. I need to fill up. I understand, sir. Then I'll be out with your sandwich and drink in just a moment. That would be awesome. The waitress made her way back into the restaurant with the order as James leaned back in his chair and looked around at the other tables. Mostly normal people, but one caught his eye. A few tables over, with her back towards him, sat a dark-haired woman with a black triangular hat and a dark red coat draped over her shoulders. She put the hat on the table and placed some order, but James couldn't hear what, followed by her taking out a long, thin pipe, starting to smoke. The waitress for James' table returned with his first item at the same time the woman received hers, so all James noted was that the only thing she had delivered to her was a single cup. But there was no time for observations now. He grabbed the sandwich from the plate in front of him and took a large bite. Reinvigorated, he had eaten half of it before he had even noticed it himself. Sure, it wasn't the best sandwich ever made. 2 pieces of bread, some salad, 2 kinds of fish, some basic dressing, and a bit of oil. But to James, it was heaven. This was what he would remember as the most important sandwich he had ever eaten in his life. Starting to drink his ale, he finished the sandwich shortly before the waitress returned with his pasta and chips. For the rest of the meal, James took a little more time to enjoy the dishes, not having any problem finishing it all, even though it was, as the waitress had informed him, quite a lot of food. James even figured he could eat some more and ordered another 2-fish sandwich to go before paying. With his lunch all done, James threw a glance towards the table where he had seen the woman earlier, but she was gone. Not thinking more about it, James returned to Cassandra and collected the things he'd need. With a sack slung over his shoulder, he started munching on the sandwich as he started looking for the hotel he had been told about. He wouldn't mind spending some cash for comfort. He had a bit of money saved up, and in a pinch, a few somewhat valuable items he could sell off. He wasn't planning on staying in Avicii for too long, but he needed to stock up for the next trip, and seriously reconsider traveling on his own. He soon noticed that the crowd became thicker and realized that he had reached the market. Making a mental note of that, he'd have to check it out later. He took a right turn and left the market without much trouble, even if he had to apply his elbows a bit. Looking at the signs, he soon found that he had reached his goal, the Veranda Hotel. From the outside, it looked like a nice place. Entering the building, he came to what seemed to be a combined lobby and bar, with more people sitting around drinking than he'd have expected to be there at this time of the day. He found what he could identify as the front desk and rang a small bell sitting upon it. "Come in, sir," he heard from behind him. Turning around, he saw the bartender rinse his hands and walk up to the desk where James was standing. "So, are you the bartender, or bartender, front manager, anything that's needed?" he said. "Name's Sean Lannon. You got a room booked?" "Oh no, I just arrived. Are there any available?" "Sure. We have a bed in a 4-person room if you don't mind sharing. Nice people. Bed doubles as a storage chest you can lock, so no worries about anyone stealing anything." "Sure, that'll do." "How long are you planning on staying?" "Not sure. A few nights." "Well, it's 2,000 belly per night, and that includes breakfast. 10,000 for a week if you pay in advance." James pondered his situation. While he wasn't really planning on staying very long, he also wasn't in any rush. "Sign me up for a week then." He flipped through a few bills and handed over the agreed-upon price to the manager. "Very good, sir. Name?" "James Conrad." The manager wrote his name down and handed him 2 keys. "Here's for the room in your storage, room 316. And since you're new, let me tell you that you don't want to miss the show this evening. Starts in about 5 hours on the lobby scene. You won't believe your ears." "I'll keep that in mind, thanks." James made it up the stairs to the 3rd floor and found his way to his room. There wasn't anyone else currently there, but 3 of the beds had clearly been used, so he opened up the 4th one, put his sack in the storage space, and locked it with the key. Putting the key in his inner shirt pocket and taking off his shoes, he lay down in the bed. His first experience of Avacine had been mostly positive. He could surely find what he needed here, and more than anything, he needed someone who knew how to navigate, was his final thought before he drifted off into a nap. This has been Chapter 1 of Pure Corruption, a one-piece fanfic written by KennyMan666 that you can find on fanfiction.com and corruption.nextera.net. My name is Ori the Fanfic Guy, and if you enjoyed what you've heard today, please like and subscribe and comment down below other stories you'd like to hear.